Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to On the Bright Line podcast, Tales from Recovering Food Addicts from the perspective of a physician, a therapist, and an off-the-wall storyteller. We are not affiliated or endorsed by Brightline Eating, and all content presented in this podcast represents our personal opinions and does not represent medical, nutritional, or psychological professional advice. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of On the Brightline podcast. We are going to talk about snicker, intimacy. Maybe we're going to talk about sex. Now you're interested. Everybody's ears perked up. But I think this is an important topic, and we think this is an important topic because the way that we view our bodies, and we're going to talk a lot about this, changes as we have bright transformation, as we age. We were just having a side conversation about aging bodies, and that can obviously affect your intimacy with your partner and how you view yourself as a sexual being. So I think that it's an important conversation to have, and being, three adult women, we talk about this sometimes. So sometimes we talk about it, and then I get really red in the face. Could you believe me? I'm the one that gets embarrassed.
I do not get embarrassed.
No, Bonnie's just like, here's what's going on, guys. Like left, right, and center. Okay, yeah. So who wants to start? Because I'm not starting. I'm not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. No way.
Well, I think one of the things that we were talking about before was that accepting our bodies as they change with weight loss and age. And we were talking about being appreciative of the bodies that we are in.
Yeah, I think for most of us who have struggled with weight for all of our lives, when you're even prepubertal, you're looking in the mirror, you're turning sideways, and you're thinking about yourself. Are my breasts big enough? Are my thighs too big? Is my waist too big? And if I could just look like this, I would be sexually attractive, right? Men would find me attractive, or women would find me attractive, or whatever, right? That I will be sexually attractive to whoever I want to be with. And then it's just this constant chasing of, as you get older and still struggle with the weight, just this constant idea that if I just looked like this, if I just got the weight down to this number, I would look a certain way.
Right.
And, maybe if you were 10 pounds overweight when you were 16 and then you drop that weight before you turn 17, maybe you're going to look that way.
Right.
But in reality, for most of us, I mean, Meagan, you came from bigger numbers than I did. I lost about 70 pounds. You've now lost 140.
I lost twice as much as her now.
140 pounds. So, and we both had children. I've had 2 pregnancies.
What? I've had children? You're kidding me.
And my eating disorder of overeating, my food addiction went nutso in my first pregnancy. I reined it in with my second one, but I mean, I was like, I can eat all
I didn't have the opportunity.
So I gained a lot of weight. So, there's stretch marks, there's, on my thighs and on my abdomen, and, I have a pear-shaped body, and I've always had like I said, I can remember looking sideways in the mirror at 16 and thinking my thighs were too big and my butt was too big and my tummy was too big. And that was before I even had pregnancies or had, I really wasn't overweight back then. I was really at a normal weight. And so I think you have this image in your mind of what you want your body to look like. And then when you finally I'm at my ideal body weight at this point. And I look in the mirror and I see that saggy poochy tummy skin, and I have literally like sagging skin in my thighs, and it can affect how you feel. If you feel attractive or not. And everybody's a little different, but I would say women in particular, from the medical point of view, arousal is a lot about in your mind and very little about the physical, right? I mean, physical stimulation is stimulating, but most of arousal and sexual interest and all that comes from, your mind. And so if you are looking in the mirror and thinking, I look ugly, right? It's going to be hard to become interested, even if your partner doesn't feel that way.
Right.
You've just pushed what they call the brake, right? And we've got a gas pedal and a brake pedal. And when
are we talking about like When you're talking about intimacy in general or in general, what are you talking about? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. That if when you're driving a car, if the brake is engaged, you can be hitting the gas all you want, and that car is never going to go anywhere.
Yeah. And so it's complicated because, I mean, I have an extremely supportive spouse, that just regularly, for my whole marriage of more than 30 years now, regularly expresses that, he thinks I'm beautiful and like could care less about the weight one way or the other. But I know some people have spouses that are critical of their weight, or that's been a friction with them. So that's like an added layer. Right. So, there is a lot of work that has to be done about accepting the body that you're in, recognizing, my gosh, like this body has carried me through many years of life. It has brought forth two beautiful children. It allow, now that I'm in my right size body, I can be so active, and I can hike, and I can go do things, and I can do yoga, and I can, all those things. It's like you have to come to a real, not a fake, but a real acceptance of the skin that you're in, and honor the parts that are scarred and stretched, because they just are what they are. And they're not really what makes you a sexual being or an intimate being or a loving partner. They're just, this is the meat sack that we live in, and not tying ourselves to that unrealistic body standard, which we all know is, the Barbie body that no one ever had anyway. But you have to come around to that, and you have to have some discussions with yourself, and you may have to have some discussions with your partner about how you feel about things. But it is a very real thing that happens. And it's like when you lose, like I said, if you're 16 and you lose 10 pounds, you're not already dealing with stretch marks or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But for most of our bodies, like once you have physically stretched that skin out to a certain point, there is some, like over time, there is a reduction in how much loose skin there is, depending on how much you lost and all that type of thing. But it is, your body's just going to be honest, like it's never going to look like a 16-year-old woman or man again. I mean, like even if you had never gained weight,
right?
If you had never gained weight, the body that you're in at 50 or 60 is never going to look like the body that you had at 20. It is not realistic or normal or appropriate. And spending some time resetting that for yourself and examining for yourself what beauty means to you.
Yeah.
And, I think a beautiful body is a body that can move and do what it needs to do and carry you through life. Right. But that's a big lift for.
So here's the even more interesting thing, like talking this through. And like, I completely agree with you. Like for me, it's like, I think that there was, I knew that no matter what, when I lost all my weight, I was going to have all this loose skin. Like I knew it was going to happen. Like I've seen it on other people. Like I wasn't disillusioned to think that like it was not going to happen to me. I don't know what I thought my body was going to look like when I got down to the weight that I'm at now. It honestly looks better than I thought it was going to. I know, like I didn't think that I know I've said this to both of you. Maybe I haven't said this on the podcast. Like I did not think I had the shape of body that I have. Like I thought I thought I was someone, because the way I was shaped before with, all my excess weight, I thought I was a person with like really wide hips, big butt, big thighs, whatever. That is not my body at all. Like I'm actually more triangle. Like I have broader shoulders and like, kind of a wider chest and like kind of slimmer hips and, thighs, which I just didn't think was the body that I had. And I look in the mirror and with clothes on, and I know I have said this on the podcast, with clothes on, I'm like, wow, like that's the body I've always wanted. I get to look cute in clothes and whatever, but I take my clothes off and it's a different story for me. And so I think it's really interesting because I am hypercritical of my own body, but I am not hypercritical of other people's bodies. Like, and that's like, I don't look at other people's bodies, even other people who have lost a lot of weight, and say, oh, they need to do something different with their body, that their body isn't beautiful just the way it is, because I don't believe that. And I don't feel that way. And it's just really interesting that I can't have acceptance of my own body. And honestly, like I felt like I was more comfortable naked in my larger body than I am in my smaller body now.
So interesting.
So what part of yourself is struggling?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely something that I've talked about, and it's like in intimate relations for me, like I said, like I don't ever feel like I don't have a critical eye to my partner's body. Like I don't feel that way about my partner and their body. I feel like any body is beautiful. I feel like all bodies are beautiful, and I feel like everybody's beauty can be seen, for what it is. But like when I look at my own body in the mirror, there was something that was just said on one of the accountability calls about whether you look at yourself and see, oh gosh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have even brought it up because I don't remember what it was. Somebody's like frantically typing on the keyboard. Right. Like it was like you either see like problems or like, like you see the problems or you see it for what it is. Like I don't remember. It was really good. It was really good, whatever was said. And please somebody write in and tell me because I cannot remember what was said. But I was just like, oh, like I look at my body and I see the problems. Like I don't focus in on
the strength,
all the muscle, all the tone, I mean, that's the thing, guys, is like, I never thought my body could look as toned as it is now. And it does, it looks really good. But then I also see the loose skin and, the part of my belly that still isn't flat and, all these things. It's like Bonnie said, it's like, I've had 2 kids, like I've lived in a morbidly obese body for the majority of my life. And it's like to think that I could become a bikini model, there's a disappointment. Like there is a disappointment that I think that I just struggle with. And that does turn up for me in intimacy because I struggle with my, my naked body and the way it looks, and that my breasts are not as perky, because there's not as much fat there, like let's be honest, like
all of my initial weight from there. I mean, it's like
that's
it all gone. Yeah. I think it's about like, again, you want to feel sexy or whatever. And I think it is.
Again, put me in clothes and I feel that way.
And I think it takes conscious effort to start to deconstruct the warped BS of body image that we have all been given, men included. Most men don't look like a Ken doll and most women don't look like a Barbie doll. And it's like, like it's interesting you say that, like you don't judge. I was like, I see my spouse, and all I see is this wonderful person who's brought me through this life.
Exactly.
And I'm so attracted to him because of his mind and the beautiful things that he does for me. And
but you don't find his body unattractive either. Like that's the thing. It's like, and he's got loose skin and he's got,
all
so
it's like all the parts that need to work still work.
Yeah.
And I think he feels the same way. And that's the thing, guys, when it comes down to it, like loose skin doesn't affect function at all. And in fact, I will tell you,
can get in the way, let's be honest.
And in fact, like, for men, a lot of men that have, erectile dysfunction as they age, it is a direct result of the diet. It's the cardiovascular disease. It's basically, it's inflammation and plaques in the arteries that feed those blood vessels. And, when you get on bright line eating and you get rid of sugar and flour, all that gets better. Right. It's kind of amazing. I mean, I think majority of that men suffer from is from the nutritional situation. It's the inflammation and the bad food that's going into their body and it's hurting that function. So that gets better. And I think you have to really, it is not just going to happen like, and I'm just going to say this, like, you're not just going to lose the weight and like, that's going to figure itself out.
Right.
So I guess that's why we're bringing this up. Cause I really want to say like, it's going to take some conscious work, but it's not just a platitude to say, love your body I'm telling you, like, you have to sit down and have some long looks in the mirror and some conversations and start bragging about the good things that you do see in your body. Yep. I don't like my little tummy pooch, but man, my arms have muscles and my back is strong and my core is strong, even though underneath all that, I have a strong core.
And I'm strong for having done this journey. Right. Because to me, that's about getting to that, not just the body neutrality, but that view of myself, my whole self, as strong, resilient, determined.
And look what I've
those
done.
Are sexy, right? Those are some sexy attributes, right? To get in touch with, I think, especially as, for female identifying people, to get in touch with yourself as being a strong human being that can hit your gas pedal, right? To as a turn on.
We're working through the modules together in the maintenance 2 modules right now. And, and I think I think that's where I was seeing this, that, Susan was talking about, the people that freak out about their weight number, and they'll be 2 pounds from their set goal that they had set for themselves, having lost 100 pounds.
Right.
And they're like, I'm a failure. And she's like, don't you dare.
Yeah.
Don't you dare basically criticize the person that just lost 98 pounds.
Right.
Because you're 2 pounds short, because
Right.
there's some arbitrary number you set for yourself. Right. So I think this is like, don't you dare criticize this beautiful body that has been through this amazing journey, that has already carried you through all these years of life, and tell that body that they're not beautiful. Right. And I think, like you were saying, we don't judge other people. You would, when you look at your friends, you feel that they're beautiful because you love them. And if you saw your friend having someone tell them that they were ugly, you would be all over that. So it's
and even when your partner tells themselves, like when they, say negative things, you're like, no, like, don't talk about yourself that way. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it's like, for
But
whatever
somehow we
reason, I
talk to our-
cannot translate that to myself.
Right.
And so, I just am like, where do we start? Like, where do
I
we
think you
go?
start
And
by
how do
literally
we-
look in the mirror and say,
Yeah.
you're beautiful. Literally, like, you might have to force it at first, right?
Well, but I think it's also about being willing to question what part of yourself holds that message.
Yeah.
And what purpose does holding that message serve, right? Because maybe in the past, holding that message maybe motivated you to try the 9 millionth diet or to do X, Y,
Juicing,
Z.
remember the juicing?
But I never
Juicing
did
is
because
so
I thought it
gross.
was nuts.
Right. Right. But being willing to, again, get in dialogue with that part and start asking it to step back, because that's not serving you well. Now, so one of my questions would be, does holding on to that keep you from being intimate with your partner, and are you avoiding intimacy with your partner for other reasons? Right.
Well, the answer for me is no.
Right.
But for some people
But
who've
for
had
some people,
sexual
it might be
trauma
yes.
too.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Yes.
And that's the thing,
Sorry,
like,
I'm sorry,
we could
guys.
do a whole nother episode on that. Like, people that have had sexual trauma,
Yep.
sometimes use their weight on purpose.
Oh,
right?
no,
Like,
absolutely.
oh, they
absolutely.
tell themselves, look at me, I'm big
Right.
and ugly. No one will
No one will
want
want
me.
me.
Do that
Yeah.
to me
Right.
again or whatever.
Right.
Right. That's a whole nother episode for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you have to literally decide that you want to consciously start looking at yourself
Yeah.
and telling yourself something nice every day. Like,
Yeah.
think about, it's like that whole, like, a positive affirmation where you think about, like a gratitude thing where people say what I'm grateful for every day. How about if every day?
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Oh, this is good, guys.
Right. Like, thank you,
Self-gratitude.
body, for getting me through XYZ today.
Yeah.
But I think to me, it has to be more superficial than that even. Like, I think like, I mean, I'm very proud of my body and how strong it is and whatever, but I think there is that superficial love that I need to find that I had for so long in my life that I just don't, I can't seem to find with my naked body. And I will say, guys, when clothes, you can't tell me I'm not cute, because I am, but I know. But it's like, I look in the mirror after I take a shower or whatever, and I'm just like, wow, like.
Can I tell you that 15 years ago or more, maybe more, as long as I've known you, probably, we've always been on a diet or doing something to lose weight.
Yeah.
And you were always about, I'm going to have skin surgery. I mean, from the first thing you said before you lost a pound was, I'm going to have skin surgery. I'm going to have skin surgery.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't hear you talking about that as much anymore, because I think you are starting to move towards, I mean, whether you do or
I
not.
just had a conversation about it earlier today,
Whether
so
you
I don't know that
whether you do or not, but it's not
Right.
front of your mind anymore, because I think you're finding so many things to do with this beautiful body that you have now.
Yeah.
That that it's, I mean, it might be something you need to do for medical reasons or other things, right? But it's like, it's not like the whole thing of you fixating on, like, I need to fix it all, right? To make it
right.
Like,
Well, but that's the
look a
thing is, it's
certain
always about how I look. Like, I have to
Yeah.
look a certain way, and it's like, if I feel like I can look good, like I said, in clothes, like I'm like, oh, maybe I don't need skin surgery, but then it's like, like when I put the swimsuit on, you can see all the bits.
But that piece that we're talking about, can you embrace the body that you are currently in?
Yeah.
Right. For whatever that looks like, and say, I am appreciative of this body that I am in right now, and all that it's gotten me through.
Right.
And being willing to start questioning, what purpose does that negativity serve you? Right. Because there are times where we have to say, right. And I love the saying, sometimes we have to put things down simply because they are heavy. And we have to be willing to say, how is that thinking holding me back? How is it holding me back from intimacy, how is it holding me back from loving myself, my whole self?
Yeah.
Right. And how is that becoming a brake pedal to intimacy? And I love, if you haven't read Emily Nagoski's book, Come As You Are, if you're having intimacy issues in your life, that is the number one book that I would recommend. Come As You Are. She has a second book for people that are partnered, Come Together.
Okay.
The other book that I love about intimacy, it's a book written by a sex therapist, Snarch, but it's also about relationships and connection, and it's called Passionate Marriage, and it's probably one of my very favorite books. Right. So those are probably the 3 books that I would recommend to anybody that's having issues with intimacy.
And I would say if you're early in your bright line journey, it's the best time to start thinking about these things. Like you might think like, oh, I still have 100 pounds to lose. Like I'm so far from that. But it's like, if you can start working on the issues of how you feel about your body,
Right.
apart from it being skinny, which is just a bunch of BS.
Right.
And start doing some of this work now, it'll serve you well.
Right. Well, and I think that like, having the issues, body image issues in relation to intimacy can happen at all, sizes. Like I think there's a lot of people that when they're larger feel like they're unattractive and don't and have problems with intimacy because of their larger body. And I think that it's not something that I personally struggled with, but I will say that, I know that that's a thing. And I know personally from my personal experience that having this this right size body that now has loose skin and isn't, perfect. That's such a theme in my life. Is that, not that I struggle. I don't know that I would say I struggle with intimacy, but I just struggle with the self-love of my body. And so I think that can creep into intimacy in many ways. And it can also affect your partner. I think that that's another thing to think about, is like the way that I talk about my body can affect the way my partner feels about their body. And so, that's another thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
because they might think, oh, if she's saying she's perfect and wonderful, if she's saying that about herself, what does she think
about me?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think that that's
I didn't think about that. That's so interesting.
Yeah. It is something that I think about, and it's something that I wish that there could become an acceptance of my body in a way that I could just love it how it is and not want anything to change about it. And this is growth, guys. Like this is a growth opportunity that I have in my life, is to figure this out and hopefully move forward. But I think that, if you are partnered, like, physical intimacy is hopefully part of your life. I mean, if that's something that you want. And so, my hope would be for people that they can experience that on a level, no matter what size body they're in. And that's, that I think that it's important that we can have these conversations really openly, that there's nothing wrong with talking about like how things change. I don't know if there's any, science behind the female body and how that changes with weight. Is there any sexual?
I mean, things actually work better, just like they do for men. Blood flow to the, to the pelvic area improves, especially for women who are older, right? I'm in my mid to late 50s now. And so the older we get, the effects of your food and cardiovascular disease, even if you're not like really high lipids, like we all get some hardening of the arteries. Okay. And so you can reverse some of that when you improve your diet. So sexual and function, or the ability to have arousal, all those things actually improves with healthier food.
Right.
And so, but there's definitely also effects of aging in general, right? For all of our function. I mean, but if you're aging and you're struggling with food addiction and you're overweight, you don't have good flexibility, then, and then you don't have good blood flow. And then, and then you have, all kinds of issues, physical. And so in general, the Bright Line Eating program should improve the medical part, right? The physical part of your function, which is kind of delightful. I will say, having gone through it with my partner, both my partner and I have lost 70 pounds each. And gosh, just like we're a little more flexible and a little stronger. So that's fun, right?
Yeah.
But so there's the physical effects, which are wonderful. But then if you are struggling with the emotional and the self-esteem issues and the body identity issues, it can really interfere with what should be a wonderful time with things getting better because your body's healthier. And so I just think it's important to think about that. Like I said, I think it's like when we talk about preparing for maintenance, We talk all about kind of preparing for like, how am I going to adjust my food and live my life remaining bright and maintain my weight that I want to maintain. But I think another big part of maintenance is that adjusting to what your body's going to be and making peace with it. And it's a huge part. And I think it's bigger than I even thought it was. And it's actually, you know, I've done the maintenance modules a couple of times, but honestly, like kind of listening to them, kind of, you know, I do a module as I'm falling asleep at night. Right. But now I'm really doing it for the first time in my third go through. And it's really good for me to really pay attention, because these are things like, you're going to be more successful long-term if you really embrace the whole growth process.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is a part of it.
Yeah.
It's a
Absolutely.
big part of it.
It is a big part of it. Anything else you have to say about intimacy? And okay, so Robin gave really good book suggestions. And I think that, you know, BLE affects everything.
That makes everything better.
No, 100%, 100%. I will say, like, you know, as much as this is the struggle of mine, and a growth opportunity for me in my life, it is like, this has definitely improved even this area of my life.
And not having constant food thoughts and being in the food. I am blessed to have the time now and the energy to devote toward actually growing into these things, right? I've never accepted my body, and it wasn't something I had the energy to even think about.
Right. But just not numbing out with food anymore. I mean, it's like, and the highs are high and the lows are low, but like, you know, that intimacy can be even better when you're living life in the full color spectrum, which I feel is like what happens when you take away the numbing that we get when we're in our food addiction. So yeah, it is a beautiful thing for sure. And I think that, you know, I just, my encouragement to the community is, yes, love your body, allow your partner to love your body as well. And, just, we got to continue to work at it. So it's a work in progress. Absolutely. So, okay. Well, that is our episode for today, guys. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or show topic ideas, please feel free to email us at onthebrightlinepodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on any of our socials. I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.